My name is Irma Brannon. I am the broker owner of Wise Choice Real Estate, and I am here today to speak with you regarding on HUD homes and how to successfully sell a HUD home and what steps you need to take after your buyer wins the bid. So inventory in all of our area in the state of Virginia remain low. So bidding has been very competitive. Bids often come in over the initial listing price because of inventory being so low. A lot of buyers are out there, and so they come in over list price. The foreclosure and the rental moratoriums, those have been lifted. So registering for a bidder account, you will need your broker's NAID number. And if he or she needs to register for a NAID number, you will go to the top right hand corner. You will click bidder under the registration box. You will create username and password. Your broker will need to obtain a NAID number and to be registered on HUD Home Store in order for you as an agent, as a realtor, so that you can register under your name and your own email account, but you will be registered underneath your broker's NAID number. So this is where to do that at. You go to hudhomestore.gov. This is what the home page looks like. Upper right hand corner on register, click on bidder, and then it'll prompt you to fill out and how to fill out to receive your NAID number. And that's for your broker to do that. Searching for properties on HUD Home Store. You will need the state or the case number because that's a required field. And then all other fields can be used to narrow your search. So here are financing codes that HUD uses. The financing code is IN. That means insurable. And the description of insurable is property meets FHA 203B financing requirements. No obvious repairs necessary to insure an FHA loan. Then you have IE, which is insurable with escrow, and that property is eligible for a 203B FHA loan with repairs that total less than $5,000. Then you have UI, which is uninsurable. Property is not eligible for FHA mortgage insurance in the property's as is condition and requires more than $5,000 in repairs. You have the property condition codes. F means flood zone. That is a property located in an area where coverage under the National Flood Insurance Program may be required to obtain a loan. So that flood zone could be a mandatory area for a mandatory flood insurance, and that has to be obtained, like I said, underneath the National Flood Insurance Program. HOA means homeowners association. This property is covered by a homeowners association, which may require the HOA fees and dues to be paid by the owner. LBP indicates lead-based paint. So when your property was built before 1978 and they may contain lead-based paint, then a lead-based paint addendum form must accompany the sales contract. And you must turn in the lead-based paint form prior to ratification of the sales contract. So the listing periods for new listings, they are available daily, and for these particular listings here, these are special listings, and one of them is called the lottery rounds. Lottery rounds before the properties are available to the general market. Then you have the good neighbor next door buyers, government agencies, and non-for-profits. Both of those are for a 7-day period, and then owner-occupant priority, then open to all bidders. So after the lottery rounds and after the good neighbor next door programs, if nobody bids on them and there is not a bid awarded in that 7-day period, it will automatically turn over to owner-occupant priority. And then once owner-occupant priority deadlines are met, and if they still don't have a buyer, then they're open to all other bidders. So the owner-occupant priority and for unassurable is a 5-day exclusive listing period, and they're all sealed bidding. Insurable and insurable with escrow, those are a 30-day exclusive listing period. 10 days sealed bidding, and then you have 20 individual 24-hour bidding periods. The 30-day exclusive listing period is new as of March 1st, 2022. And so we're only a few weeks into this, but once the first 10-day deadline has hit, then the next 20 individual 24-hour bidding periods that will be for owner occupants only. And then on day 31, the property will be in an extended listing period. So owner occupants, like I just said, effective March 1st, 2022, HUD has increased the exclusive listing period for owner occupants from 15 days to 30 days. The sealed bid period will remain 10 days. For non-owner occupants, bidding as an owner occupant can face up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. The bidding process is all online, and agents must submit on behalf of the buyers. That is the only way you can bid on a HUD home. Bids are accepted 24/7, but are not reviewed on weekends and holidays. So come Friday, they will not review till Monday. So they do not review on weekends and they do not review on holidays, but the bidding period remains open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Bids are received on the same day, are considered to be received simultaneously. Example, bids received on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are considered to be received simultaneously. 2 acceptable bids with the same amount are selected by a randomized electronic drawing. So if you have 2 acceptable bids with the same amount that HUD wants to take, they put them in electronic drawing and randomize that. Daily bid deadline is at 11:59 p.m. Central Time. So bids you wish to withdraw must be done by this deadline. If you have not withdrawn a bid and you wanted to, and it hits the bid deadline at this time at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, your bid has been submitted and you cannot retrieve it. Selecting a buyer select closing agent. So, it's best if your buyer select closing agent understands the HUD process. So, the HUD process is a little different than a regular closing, and they must be registered with HUD. And, because if it leads to a faster closing is what I'm trying to say. And if they're not HUD registered and they are put in and then they have to turn around and register for HUD, that does delay the contract, and it does delay the closing time, not the contract, but it delays the closing time. And closing agents that have already been issued the title ID numbers, they can be searched at HUDhomestore.gov. So if you need a registered buyer select closing agent, you can go to HUDhomestore.com and search them out. Closing agents without title IDs can be approved, but will add time to the closing process. So, submitting a bid. The information entered on the bid submission page, it automatically becomes the first page of the sales contract. So it's very important that when you submit your buyer's bid on HUDhomestore.gov, that first page of that contract is everything you submitted online. So make sure everything is correct and spelled correctly, because that's going to become the first page of that sales contract. So the bid lines, line 3 is the offer price. So you're going to fill in what the buyer wants to bid for the offer price. Line 4 is the type of financing. So if the buyer is going to pay cash, or if the buyer is financing with conventional FHA, a 203B FHA, or a 203 K FHA, it could be a VA. So line 4 is for you to fill in the type of financing. Line 5 is your closing costs. If the buyer needs closing costs, you will fill this in on line 5. HUD does not accept any more than 3% of closing cost. Line 6 is the agent commission, so you make sure that the agent commission is all filled in. Line 7 is what is going to be net to HUD, is what HUD's going to net, excuse me. So after everything for the offer price and the closing costs and agent commission, the bottom line is net to HUD. Line 8 is going to be buyer type, whether they're owner occupant or an investor. Line 10, you will indicate whether to tell HUD if bid is not accepted, if HUD may or may not hold this as a backup offer. So the next section in the buyer's information. First question wants to know if the buyer is affiliated with HUD or its employees in any way. You will answer yes or no here. The selling broker / agent submitting this bid is a buyer or has ownership interest in any way in purchasing this property. This is a yes or no answer. You will fill in the primary buyer's information, their name, their address, their phone number, their email, social security number, or EIN number, depending on if it's an owner-occupant or an investor. If it's an owner-occupant, more than likely you're going to fill in social security number. If it's an investor, he or she should have an EIN number, and if they don't, then you'll just use their social security number as well. You will fill in the buyer select closing agent information. Once all that information is filled in, you will hit continue. Then you'll review the information that you put in, and you will click on submit the bid. So submitting the contract for a winning bid, you will need proof of funds or lender letter. If they're paying cash, you'll need proof of funds. If they are financing, then you will get an approval of lender from the lender. You'll need corporate documents if those are applicable, and a copy of the earnest money check. All that must be uploaded within 24 hours for a winning bid. The contract must be signed by the selling agent, all purchasers, and the buyer select closing agent. The asset manager will sign and send notification of the fully executed contract. The asset manager's execution date becomes the official acceptance date. So now we're off to winning the bid. Net to HUD is the key. Net to HUD's the key in all this on winning the bid. Not the purchase price, okay? HUD doesn't care about the purchase price, more or less. They just care about what they are going to net. So the important part is please ensure all the items on the bid checklist are uploaded and the earnest money is submitted to the listing broker timely. The contract cannot be initiated until all bid checklist items have been submitted. And then this includes your buyer select closing agent, your E&O, and license information. This is all very important. Contract corrections. You'll have 1 business day to return a contract returned for correction. So if there is a mistake on there, then the asset manager is going to send that back to you, and they're only going to give you 1 business day to make the corrections and get that returned back to them. The contract will be canceled or awarded to the next highest bidder if all bid checklist items are not uploaded in a timely manner. So, home inspections, they are highly recommended. They are also done during the 15-day due diligence period. That is in the contract. Must contact the field service manager prior to the home inspection because you must have a fully executed contract before doing so. 48 hours once the utilities have been turned on. Utilities must be turned off after the inspection. And links to the field service manager activation pages can be found at raincompany.com/resources. The selling agent must accompany buyer and inspectors. They have to be there at the house with the buyer and the inspector. Termite letters. Buyer can have done at any time at their own cost, then the buyer is responsible for all the costs, including treatment and repairs. HUD will only pay for the letter, the treatment, and repairs if it is FHA financing and or if it is state zoned mandated. And the appraised value, buyer must attain their own appraisal. HUD no longer provides appraisals to buyers or lenders. They don't do that no more. The repair escrow is determined by the buyer's appraisal. And if the appraiser is lower than the bid price, then the buyer must bring the additional cash to closing. HUD will not bring down the purchase price because it did not appraise. It's going to be up to the buyer to pay the cash to make up the difference. So when you have financing amendment from FHA to other, so when you're in an FHA loan, you want to go to something else, the termite letters average around $100. The lead-based paint average around $700, and the additional cost, if there's treatment or abatement, you will have to pay that back to HUD when you're switching from an FHA to a different finance type. May cost that buyer money. And the cost of the lead-based paint and termite is now absorbed by the buyer. Like I said, the termite letters average around $100. The lead-based paint average around $700. And the additional cost if there's treatment or abatement that HUD had paid for. So financing from other to FHA. Additional time may be needed in order to do that. The lead-based paint and the termite must be ordered. And the termite will take 5 to 7 business days for the inspection and additional time if treatment is necessary. Lead-based paint may take 7 to 10 business days for the inspection and additional time if abatement is necessary. Contract addendums. Adding and removing a purchaser. Changing financing. Contract corrections. You'll need the name, the address, the changing of closing agents. Complete amendment forms at raincompany.com/amendment. Other amendments, like the buyer change amendment, you may need, the primary buyer cannot be changed. The primary buyer cannot be changed. And then changing from owner-occupant to investor may not be possible depending on the bidding period of the bid award. So if they came in and bid it as an owner-occupant, now they in the owner-occupant exclusive bidding period, and they want to be changed to investor, they may not do that. When you want to add a buyer, you may be able to add an additional buyer, but you have to put in the amendment and ask. The escrow amount change, that cannot be used. That amendment cannot be used to remove that escrow. Amendments. These are not quick fixes, and they take at least 72 hours to process. Amendments will not be executed the day of the closing. Failure to remit amendments on time may result in delayed and/or rescheduled closings. Like I said, it's not a quick fix. They take at least 72 hours to process. So, calculating the net to HUD. When you win the bid, they are determined by the highest net to HUD. So, line 5 is your closing cost. That's what HUD's going to pay. Like I said earlier, up to 3% of the purchase price towards closing cost. They will only allow actual closing costs to be paid on the HUD 1, and it cannot be used toward third-party settlement fees. So it's strictly for closing costs only. They're entered as a numeric figure, not as a percentage. Line 6 is the commission. Line 6A, HUD will pay up to 3% of the purchase price to a selling agent for their commission. 6B will auto-populate 3% for the listing broker. And the minimum commission that will be paid is $1,000. So here's how we're calculating the net to HUD. You're going to take the purchase price, and then you're going to subtract the closing cost, and then you're going to subtract the commission. That's what net to HUD is, and that is what they look at. That's the bottom line, what they're looking for in the profit of the house. And broker bonuses, repair escrows, that does not change the net to HUD at all. Accepted offer and an executed contract. The buyer, the selling agent, and the closing agent will be sent a copy of the e-sign envelope upon bid acceptance. Must be signed within 1 day. If it's not signed within 1 day, it's automatically going to cancel, and they're automatically going to go to the next highest bidder. The buyer, the selling agent, the listing, and the closing agent, all of those people will be sent, or all those parties, will be sent a copy of the executed contract. The earnest money will be delivered to the buyer/closing agent within 2 business days of a ratified contract. So the HUD sales contract package, it is electronic HUD, 9548 sales contract. It's a condition of sale. Note that the sales contract for a HUD sale is a unique contract. It is different from customary contracts in the state. Electronic filing of the HUD contract addendum. The owner-occupant certification, if applicable. If it's owner-occupied, then they're going to send you an owner-occupant addendum for your signature. And then for your protection, you're going to get a home inspection, so you can find out what the condition of the property is. The radon and gas and mold notice, I'm going to have you sign off on that. Then they're going to have a letter of commitment / pre-qualification letter. They're going to have a forfeiture and extension policy and then addendum in there, so you'll know what the forfeiture and the extension policy is. Flood zone addendum, if applicable. If the house is in a flood zone, you will see that in the contract. And notice to purchase addendum, if that's applicable. And then the earnest money check with the earnest money certification form. That is all in the HUD sales contract package for electronic signatures. So responsibilities of the selling agent: must complete buyer select closing agent addendum, remit the earnest money check to the listing broker, ensures all parties e-sign the contract. The order of the e-signatures are the selling agent. The selling agent reviews the contract, and the selling agent's broker will e-sign the contract. The buyer select closing agent e-signs the contract, and Rain ratifies the contract and emails all parties a copy of the contract. Earnest money. They must be certified funds. Anything less than $49,999 is a $500 earnest money deposit. $50,000 to $249,000 is a $1,000 earnest money deposit. So greater than $250,000 is a $2,000 earnest money deposit. And if you bid on a vacant lot, it's 50% of the list price. That's what the earnest money deposit would be. The earnest money is payable to the closing agent and remitted to the listing agent. Earnest money. Earnest money. Once the contract is ratified, the executed contract has been sent to the parties. Then the listing broker will remit the earnest money to the buyer's designated closing agent within 2 business days. Or within 2 days, excuse me. Review the forfeiture and extension policy for the earnest money. Earnest money may be entirely or partially forfeited if the contract fails to close. So it's at their discretion whether they want to give you a portion of the earnest money back, if they want to give you all of it, or if they're not going to give you any of it. Depends on the situation. Refund of earnest money. Prior to contract execution, the listing broker will be responsible for refunding the earnest money. So prior to ratification of the contract, the listing broker will be responsible for refunding the earnest money. After contract execution, the buyer select closing agent is responsible for dispersing the earnest money. That's after contract ratification. Forfeiture of earnest money policy is the failure by a purchaser to close on the sale of property with the allowable time period, including any extensions granted by HUD, will result in the forfeiture of the earnest money deposit, except where special circumstances exist and are documented and accepted by HUD. So forfeiture of the earnest money for investors. If it's uninsured finance sales, 100% is forfeited regardless of reason. The exception is that HUD cancels the contract for inability to close for any reason. Forfeiture of earnest money deposit for owner occupant would be death in the immediate family. Recent serious illnesses in the immediate family affecting the purchaser's financial ability to close. Loss of job by primary breadwinner, but no fault of the purchaser. Other good cause is determined and approved by HUD. On insured sale, HUD underwriter determines purchaser is not an acceptable borrower. Forfeiture of earnest money, owner occupant uninsured, pre-approved versus pre-qualified. Pre-approved means a commitment has been obtained by a recognized mortgage lender for financing in a specific dollar amount sufficient to purchase the property. If pre-approved 100%, if unable to obtain mortgage financing, otherwise 50% forfeited and 50% refunded. So if you're pre-approved 100%, if unable to obtain the mortgage financing, otherwise if you can obtain the mortgage financing, that's going to be 50% forfeited and 50% refunded. That's for uninsured owner-occupant properties. Repair escrow, i.e. listing information, will show FHA financing as i.e. meaning insured escrow. Look to the property condition report for the items. This is not a gift from HUD. Repair escrows, they're not a gift from HUD. The sales price remains the same. The escrow amount is added to the mortgage. The lender holds the escrow and is responsible for the repairs and licensed contractor. And the listing will itemize the required repairs and the total cost. 110% of the stated repair amount will be added to the mortgage. No repairs are done prior to closing. Closing timeline. For cash is 30 days from date of acceptance, and for financing, except for 203K, it's 45 days from the date of acceptance. A 203K usually takes 60 days plus to be able to close. 203K financing, I just said that, 60 days from the date of acceptance. So canceling a contract. Don't let a contract cancel on expiration. Please complete the extension form at raincompany.com/extension. Include documentation on why you need the extension and what has happened. Include that with the earnest money disposition request form when you're trying to cancel a contract. So extensions, they're done in 15-day increments and all 15 days must be paid. So if the contract closes prior to the 15 days, the remaining per day fee will be will be credited back to the buyer and HUD one. So let me say that again. If the contract closes prior to the 15 days, the remaining 15 days, per day fee will be credited back to the buyer on the HUD one. The fee and request form must be submitted 5 days prior to expiration of the contract. If it is not submitted and accepted 5 days prior to the expiration of the contract, HUD will cancel this contract and will keep the earnest money deposit and move on. So if you have a sales price of $1 to $25,000, it's $10 per day, and you have to submit for in 15-day increments. So that extension fee submitted is going to be $150. $25,000 and $1 to $50,000. It's $15 per day. $225 for 15 days. 50,000 and $1 plus, it's $25. And this is sales price, by the way. 50,000, $1 plus. Everything over that is $25 per day. A 375-day extension fee for 15 days. So the closing protocol is the closing documents must be to the closing agent 7 days, 5 business days prior to closing. We said it again. The closing documents must be to the closing agent within 7 days, meaning 5 business days prior to closing. A ready-to-close inspection must be completed. The CD and the HUD one must be approved by the lender, if it's applicable. The CD and the HUD one must be approved by the asset manager. And keys are not provided at closing. Vandalism. To determine option on moving forward or canceling when there's vandalism, or postponing and extensions when there's vandalism. The best thing you can do would be to contact the asset manager as soon as you know that there has been vandalism, that the property has been vandalized, so they can determine which option would be best. After closing, you're going to coordinate with the listing broker for the buyer's access to the property. The property must be rekeyed at buyer's expense. The utilities can be permanently activated. Let me go back to the keys. The property must be rekeyed at buyer's expense. The listing agent does not give out, or HUD does not give out any of the keys to the house. So that's why it's important to get it rekeyed. And then the utilities can be permanently activated after you close. Not before, but after. Here are your resources. You'll go to HUDhomestore.gov to submit bids, to withdraw bids, to look at and to search properties. The asset manager is raincompany.com. You'll go there and you will find addendums. You will find any paperwork that you may need for a HUD home. So that's a good resource. So I just want to thank you for attending. And here is my contact information. If you should have any questions or would, need me for anything. So have a great day.